Hey, good evening, and welcome to the Uptown Parlay Podcast. Now, your host, Ace.
Message that you gave us your best shot, and we still closed the quarter with the lead. And then it was we held the lead the whole time. They come a little closer, we pull away, a little closer, we pull away until we finally pull away. I get out of my chair, I get in my couch, and I'm like, yep, start texting, looking up stuff. And then when they start chucking, like every team does, like let's throw these Hail Marys, why not? They hit a couple, and they stole a game from us, bro. And Malik is exactly right. He's exactly right. You cannot be giving away games at this stage in the season. You made it last 4 teams. You 8 dubs away.
You just can't do it. Like I said, we literally watched Boston do this exact same thing against this last.
It wasn't as lucky. We used some skill. Jalen skill.
Oh no,
OG skill. That shit yesterday.
Yeah.
Who is
Nesmith?
Aaron.
But Nesmith. Those are the dudes I'm never worried about. Watching Indiana. If you watch Indiana play, I've watched a lot of their games this season because League Pass. Indiana, Halliburton, I don't care about. Miles Turner, I could give a shit. It's Nembhard, it's Nesmith,
McConnell.
it's McConnell, and it's Obi, Toppin. Those 4 dudes, they will have those fucking, just like Peyton Pritchard on Boston.
Yeah.
Like them dudes there, I can account for everything else, but when them dudes start hitting shots, that's when I get tight. That's when I'm like, come on now. Seriously. You can't plan for that. This dude averages like 12 points a game in the over the course of the entire. It's not because that's another say when Nembhard makes dude does that. Now I know how people feel when Josh Hart scores 30. Like that's what I said.
Yeah.
Like
it's like how is this nigga going off on us?
Fuck is that happening? What does he do on a regular basis?
I wonder if other fans be looking like, who the hell is this dude? How he was going.
I mean,
but he did get that kick out though. He did get that second shot to Cat at the end of the game, and I thought Cat was going to put it in.
Yeah, we had our shots. Brunson took a bad
2
3.
good chances.
Took a heat check 3. That was a heat check 3. I know that's his spot, his shoulder, but that's a heat check 3. He missed everything. Then Cat had a clean look. And
Cat's look was clean. It was
Cat's look was clean, and I was like, okay, but he missed it.
I tend to feel like Cat would make more threes if he took one fucking more step in.
Yeah, I know, right? All his threes got to be like from almost the logo.
Those air balls.
He shoots from
he hits them, but they be so far.
And Brunson, I mean,
I'm talking about the end of the game when he was those air balls started going.
How hard is it to run a goddamn screen for Brunson? Like seriously, how hard is it?
There were a lot of air balls in that fourth quarter by both teams.
Brunson works so hard for every shot.
Killing himself.
They need to set more screens for him with just him and Bridges.
They set good screens. I think Brunson, he can have 12 assists a game if he would be a more willing passer, bro. He draws so much gravity when he's going to I was telling Justin, in the fourth, on those pick and rolls with him and Cat was so open at the top of the key and on the freaking elbow, and Brunson just would not kick it back to him. And I was like, why is he forcing this against 2 and 3 guys? Some of them was going in. But it's like, you got to use the team. Use the team. You got all these guys around you just watching you. Use them, and let's close this game out. Cat had 35 points yesterday. Yeah, it's frustrating.
That's okay. He'll get 50 in the next one.
Frustrating.
He'll go 11 for 11 from 3.
That's not his point, though. You need to stop doing that. Can't be doing that.
Welcome to the Uptown Parlay Podcast. We got Ace, Malik, Levon, and
oh, man.
What's going on, man?
What's going on? We always know what's going on.
That was our Knicks coping session, as you heard.
Yeah, I charge $50 an hour.
Oh, the playoffs. The playoffs, my gosh. That Boston series was a pleasant surprise. Ace said he knew it. I'm not going to lie.
I knew it.
Not.
I also call Knicks in 6.
Nah, man. I don't do the whole N6, N5. I just watch game to game. And when it came to Boston, I would have been happy if the Knicks just fought every game. And look like
I want the Knicks to win in 6 games because I want them to beat Indiana on their home court. I want Halliburton's daddy to be let back into the stadium so he can see his son lose. So somebody can go up to him and be like, "Oh, how's it feel now? How's it feel?" Shoes on the
foot. Charles Barkley was petitioning for his dad.
I hope they let him back in. They should let him back into the Garden.
I mean, they
should let him back into the Garden because Yeah, I would have keep act how you want to act.
Well, it's not an NBA. It's not an NBA thing.
It's a Pacers thing. Yeah,
the Pacers is doing that.
Pacers is like.
Wait, what do you mean? Oh, the Pacers won't? No, but wouldn't he be at the away games too? Wasn't he at the away games in the second round?
Yeah, but I'm saying it's the Pacers made the decision to keep him out of the arenas. That was a Pacers.
Oh, I thought it was the NBA. I thought it was David, not David Stern. Good Lord,
Adam Silver.
I thought it was Silver. Silver was like, listen, he's got to chill out. We can't have this. No, we can't have him run up on people.
I mean, the only thing the NBA would do is to make sure that he doesn't get on the court, like make sure he's not allowed on the floor.
I mean,
that's team security's fault.
I'm pretty sure, like, Halliburton probably talked to his dad, and they said it's a bad look. Just, don't come to the games. And the Pacers probably softly, asked him, and he acquiesced it. Like, he came out and made a statement saying, I'm not going to go to any more games, my behavior, yeah. I doubt he's like Charles Oakley trying to get in, but they're like, no, you're banned. You know what I'm saying? That would be too much.
What I think is funny is he's a referee.
Who, his dad?
Yeah, he referees high school and college games.
I mean, his dad just got
But if anybody should know better, it'd be somebody who does this like semi-professionally.
I didn't dig too deep into it. What was he pissed at Giannis for? Giannis doesn't strike me.
He wasn't pissed at Giannis.
He wasn't. He was just celebrating in Giannis' face.
He had I think it was a Halliburton, like a poster or something.
Yeah.
And he was like
a towel with his son's name on it.
A towel with his son's name on it. Yeah, and he was like waving the towel in front of Giannis' face, and then
gotcha.
And he just said something. Like I said, it's your kid, man. I get it. To be honest,
you get rolling up on the other team's player like that?
No, I get why. Yes, no, I do get that. I do get that.
Really?
Yes, but again, that's why
I would have been celebrating with my kid.
But again, that's why I say it's on. Think about the Knicks fans. Think about how many Knicks fans, these are not the parents of the fucking players. Think about how many Knicks fans would have been yelling at fucking Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum or all of them dudes. Like literally, if you gave them the opportunity to get on the court and bother, and antagonize,
that's why team security got to do something.
Exactly. That's why I said I see why the father of Tyrese Halliburton would do that. This is why I say I don't put it on him. People were like, ripping him. It's like, yeah, he should know better. And sure, he absolutely should know better. But that's not something that that's something that, like, at the end of the day, it's not about whether or not he should know better. We should have measures in place that prevent that.
He should never have been allowed to get that close.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
Okay.
I mean, you don't know.
Never should have been.
I never
close.
know who's allowed to just walk onto the court when the game is done. You know what I'm saying?
Usually, family can go on after the game.
That's Halliburton's
but
dad. He's probably in the locker rooms.
But it wasn't that he came on after the game. It's the fact that he got in Giannis' face.
He's probably been on the court. Like, he's probably been on the court plenty in the locker rooms. All that. He is the star player.
Do you think he's? Yeah, but he hasn't done that to other teams during the regular season.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
And you know what? You're right, I don't, but I'm pretty confident it would have led SportsCenter if he had pulled something like this earlier.
He probably, I promise you, that's not the first time he went up to another player and did that. It's not. He was too bold.
It is.
He was too bold.
I think it is because he did it to somebody who was nice, and if he did it to the wrong person, they would have just swung on him because they would have been like, "I don't know who you are."
I doubt very much
that was his first
time. Giannis, it was a bad moment. Giannis was pissed, and Giannis let him know about it, and it got caught on camera. But I'm pretty sure he rolled it back. He's been on the court probably yapping and doing that. That's where Halliburton gets it from. His dad has probably been doing it, been in the locker rooms, all that stuff. He was too comfortable doing it. He was way too comfortable.
Giannis also didn't know who he was. Giannis, I said, if he had known who he was, he wouldn't have even reacted to. He was like, I didn't.
Yeah, because he went nose to nose with him, which kind of impressed me. But I guess he knew Giannis wasn't going to put hands on him because he's a millionaire. He ain't trying to become not a millionaire.
That whole thing is what it is. But you know what's even crazier? I was telling us to Ace, and it was me, him, and Justin. That Brian Windhurst thing, man. That was embarrassing.
Yeah, that was gross.
That whole Brian Windhurst, they, not jumping on him physically, but
throwing trash at people,
at him, asking him questions, and then I was like, that's lame, man.
The question guy thought was funny because even Windhorst laughed at that one.
I thought that was classless, bro. I was like, that's classless.
I didn't realize you were Mr. Class here.
No,
somebody's trying to do their job and you giving them shit for it. I think that's classless. Yeah, Brian's job is to analyze basketball, not be a fan. And like the basketball
honestly, I'm surprised he didn't have a car to like drive out, but I'm guessing he's staying at a hotel.
Well, that's on
a
his
block or two away.
There's no way he should have been walking the streets. But everybody except Ace and Ant knew and I say knew, Boston was going to win that series. So if Bryant comes on ESPN and he sits there and says, "Oh, Knicks in 6," everybody is going to be like, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. So he does what an analyst is supposed to do. Takes the facts, adds them up and makes an informed decision.
Well, him and Bontemps both said that they were gonna. Him and Bontemps both said that they expected the Celtics to win, but after the Knicks won games 1 and games 2,
everybody expected.
Were like, well, I don't expect it now.
Everyone expected the Knicks. Everybody expected the Celtics to win, and even if you say that you expected the Knicks to win, I don't necessarily buy that because there's no way you could have explained how
correct
to win that.
You
series.
could not reasonably explain.
No, I didn't expect 2 20-point comebacks.
Given. You couldn't do that.
So you couldn't say 2 20-point comebacks. Tatum's gonna get hurt. All those things that happened in that series. I
wasn't calling the Tatum injury on the Achilles, but that was.
No, I get
not even the Tatum injury, but could you predict what was it?
Porzingis
10 for 40 from 3.
Porzingis only playing 8 minutes a game.
Yeah, with some mystery viral illness.
All those things, nobody was mentioning those things going into that series.
No.
So, but
sometimes you just gotta have that sight beyond sight.
Anyway,
what I will say about Windhorst and Bontemps and some of these people
shit? What the hell?
Was they didn't give the Knicks credit for being that type of hungry team that could come back from those types of deficits. That was number one. So literally, when they did win those games, it was, oh, Boston let it slip, Boston let it go, Boston let it go. And it was like, no, the Knicks, like you said, Levon, no, the Knicks have been doing this over the course of the season, getting down big, fighting their way back, coming back. And basically, it wasn't surprising when it started to trend up. The thing that was surprising about those Boston victories was that Boston kept shooting threes. And they were up 20 and they kept shooting and they wouldn't stop shooting. And if you just take the ball to the basket, if you just play conservative, you probably win that game. But the Knicks coming back from a 20-point deficit, not surprising, not shocking at all, because they had been doing it all year. And that was what a lot of people didn't like about Bontemps and Windhorst and those guys, because they got on there and they talked like the only thing that happened was Boston played like shit, and Boston was like, no. You gave the Knicks just like I'm talking about with Indiana yesterday. If you give good teams an opportunity, those teams will come back on you. And that's exactly what happened. So when those guys talked about, they still believed that Boston was going to win it, it's because they were still riding on that idea that Boston was the better team. And Boston was the better team. They just fucked up. And they gave it away. And I didn't listen to anything. I didn't listen to ESPN or anything, sports media related today. I stayed far away from it, because I just wasn't ready to deal with anybody's talk. But I'm pretty sure that that wasn't the conversation this time around. That this time around, the conversation was about praising Indiana and what they did, and not talking about the fact that the Knicks were the better team and gave it up. And that's
because they look at this as a coin flip.
Slopping the Indiana Pacers all day.
Yeah, but
I do find it interesting. They're giving Halliburton more credit than they are Nesmith. And Nesmith is the reason. It's not really Halliburton.
Halliburton's a starter.
Nesmith is the one who did all the work. He hit one shot at the end of the game. And actually, if you're going to pull back for a step back all the way. He got lucky.
This is what happens. With analysis across the board. It's like you can tell when teams pick their winners or pick their favorites, and they cater their commentary towards the favorite. It's never about like, hey,
they've seen these teams all year, so
if the Bears, but I'm saying if the Bears beat the Eagles in a game in the regular season, the conversation becomes, why did the Eagles lose, not why did the Bears win?
Yeah,
true. Or the Bears for real, what they love to do.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll shit
on.
But
it was the fact that the Knicks hadn't beat a good team all year. They hadn't beat any of the top 4 teams at all season,
and it wasn't close.
Yeah, so they're like, well, they got the 3 seed by beating up on bad teams, and it's like, yeah, but that's what you're supposed to do.
But you have to be competitive against the teams that you're going to play at this level. And the Knicks did not. They were never competitive. In the first game, they got washed. Game 1 of the season, we all saw that. Every time they played the Celtics, except for the last game, they got washed out. Cleveland washed them out every time they played them. OKC, the first game was close. up till about halftime. Then they got washed.
No, the Knicks were ahead in that game.
That's what I'm saying. What was it halftime,
game.
Third quarter?
Yeah, it was like third quarter, and then OKC came out.
Then they let go of the rope in that game. Then OKC came to the Garden and washed them out. So my thing is, you can't sit here and be a basketball fan or someone who watches and pays attention, is a serious basketball fan, see that evidence, and then see the Knicks legit struggle against the Pistons. Legit struggle, get out of that series
to get the win
with their
lives.
Have
to come up with an amazing
and then
play.
think, okay, they barely escaped a team that last year was in the damn lottery and won like 10 games, and they barely survived this team making back to the playoffs for the first time in a decade. And now they're going to go up against the defending champs who washed them all year, and the Knicks are going to win in 6? No.
Well, now we're past them. We're on to the the Pacers.
I'm just trying to say
the Knicks are favored in the next game betting wise. They aren't favored for the series though. Interestingly,
well,
Knicks are now plus 135 for the series, which I just put a bet on them. So
once they washed the sky out.
Once they win game 2.
Malik, we can't talk like that, man.
No, I'm just saying.
No. Once we win game 2, we can't talk.
Look, you know me, Levon. I don't speak
in absolutes. That's why we got beat yesterday.
And Levon, you know me. I don't speak in absolutes at all. I'm saying I said once they win. If they win game 2, the odds will flip. Likely back into the Knicks' favor, or it'll be even money again.
I mean, that's the odds. I'm not flipping until we take home court back.
Do any of y'all think Minnesota can win the series against OKC?
I think Minnesota has more talented players than OKC, but OKC plays better basketball. You know?
So,
OKC's basketball is better. It's more sound. They got better defense. They play a more cohesive offensive game. You know, but obviously the better players are on Minnesota. It's just like the Knicks and Pacers. To be honest, the Pacers play a more sound, better brand of basketball. Sharing the ball, passing it, shooting. The Knicks brand of basketball is very top-heavy, star-driven, playoff starting 5 guys, 40 minutes a game. We have more talent, but, we struggle. Hence, we couldn't close yesterday when it comes to the finer things of basketball, communication, switching on defense, boxing out. Stuff like that.
When the Knicks give you the only thing I'll say to that, Levon, is the Knicks give you glimpses of it.
Glimpses, yeah.
And like game 6 against Boston, that was about the best I've ever seen. I've seen this team play all season. So they show that they can do it. It's just not consistent.
I watched. Let me talk about that right now. See, this is where Levon differs from the world itself. Everybody's bigging up that game, man. That game was good. It was good. But you got to really watch it. And I've watched that game 10 times. I watch it like every night before I go to bed. It puts me to sleep. It's like a lullaby. That started that game, the Knicks played terribly. And I was on the chat talking about how bad they played. I was like, we should be up by 20. They could not buy a basket. They shot poorly. They pulled away because Boston equally shot poorly, and the refs were letting us play. Not like in Game 5 where they were calling everything. They were letting everything go. Every possible foul. It was 2 kick balls in that game they refused to call. Yeah, 2 kicked balls.
Horford kicked one.
Yes.
I can't remember who kicked the other
they
one.
were like, we're going to let them play, and we're going to let the players settle this unless it's obvious. That, coupled with the fact that we were just more talented, there was no Tatum, that should have been Game 5. That should have been Game 5.
I knew they wasn't. I knew the Knicks weren't going to win Game 5.
We wanted to close it out on our home floor.
I wanted them to, but I was like, it's no way.
I was extremely confident that the Knicks would win Game 6.
Well, watch Game 6 again. Watch Game 6 again and be like,
I've watched it about 3 or 4 times. No. I'm just talking about there was the ball movement was there. Everybody was contributing on offense. They were moving their feet on defense. Less hands, more feet movement.
Yeah, they were moving.
The switching was there. Like there were less Boston wide open threes than there had been over the course.
There was way less, but that game, the refs let everything go. Everything. Everybody was getting hit, moved, pushed. The refs were letting it go. The Knicks were always going to win that game because they were a way more physical team for one. The Boston needed the whistle to do that. And Boston gave up in like the third when Jaylen Brown, did he foul out in the third quarter? I should remember
Third quarter.
this.
Yeah, it was third quarter.
Yeah, so Boston
I thought
gave
you watched
up.
it every night before you go to sleep.
Yeah, I
Like
do. I fall asleep at around the third quarter. I got to wake up early.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So Boston, he fouled out in the third, and they gave up. It was a wrap. That game was good, but everybody's like, best game. I was like, nah, it's just a clinching game, and everybody wants to cling to that. That wasn't the best game the Knicks played all year. It was a good one, but it wasn't the best game they played. I think Game 4 was better than that game.
Well,
Game 4 was way better than that game.
Well, they had to come back from 15 down, so there was another half of basketball they did not play.
Yeah, Game 4 was way better than that game when it came to how they played and clutch play and made baskets and shooting efficiency. Yeah. But Game 6 was a party. Game 6 was a party.
You still were down 15 at one point in Game 4.
But it was still a best. So, that's because, and I'm going to say something else, Boston was a more talented basketball team than us, top to bottom.
They were.
Top to bottom. Anybody wants to say differently, you wildin'. Boston was a way more. So the fact that they were beating us, how they were beating us, and we came back, that's a testament to just sometimes the better team, top to bottom, doesn't always win because they don't have. It's kind of like when the Giants beat the Patriots. Patriots are a better team. The Patriots were the better team than the Giants in 2007, but they did not.
Apparently, they didn't have a better offensive line though.
There you go. They did not have that thing.
I didn't think the Patriots were better.
Championship. They did not have it. The Giants did.
I didn't think the Patriots were a better team that year in 2007 either. I didn't think they were the better team because I watched.
You were crazy.
Because we watched the Giants. We watched the Giants take them to the fucking woodshed.
I saw that. You talking about the last week?
In that last week of the regular season when they played everybody because they were going for that. They were going for that perfect record.
Malik, so top to bottom. Like, you don't think the Patriots were a better football team than the Giants?
No, because I knew that the Giants had a better defense. And
they did. They had a better defense, but not by a lot. Not by a lot. They had a better defensive line. The rest of that team was a bunch of, well-coached, journeymen. Kavika Mitchell
going into the Super Bowl. We had talked about where the Giants, realistically where the Giants could have had.
OKC is now within 4.
Either way,
Minnesota.
But answering I was going back to your question, Ace. Answering your question about Minnesota, I agree with Levon. There's no reason to believe that they can't win, but I have to see the way they dominated LA and the way they dominated that series against Golden State would not have been. That would have went 7 games.
They would have lost if Steph wouldn't have got hurt.
Steph was healthy, right?
Steph was healthy. They would have lost that game.
I think, and to me, Golden State was literally 2 players. It was literally Butler and Curry, and that was it.
Draymond is key on that team, though. For what he does,
he's key for them.
Yeah.
But if Curry's not out there and Butler's not out there, like to me, going into that series, I said I picked the Wolves to win that series, and then when I watched Game 1 and I saw Golden State take it to them, I was like, oh. Nah, they're gonna lose because they have this. I don't know. Minnesota has this, and I don't know if it's Ant or whomever. They have this thing. They have this way about them where they can be really great or they can be really bad, and it's not like if they're great, they will curb stomp you just like what they did with the Lakers. When they're great, they will beat the brakes off you.
The Lakers were flawed, though, Malik. The Lakers didn't have no big. They were a small team.
I get it, but they play great. That's what I'm saying. When they play well, they can beat anybody. But when they play bad, they can lose to anybody.
That's true.
And that's why I said OKC. I believe OKC wins the series because OKC is just, dude. They're consistent.
Yeah, they play sound all the time.
They play so consistent. They play so sound. Everything about them is crisp and crisp. You know what you're gonna get.
But that's to my point. OKC is crisp. They're sound, but Minnesota, at their best, with the players they have on that team, they're better than OKC because OKC doesn't have an answer for Randall at his best. They definitely don't have an answer for Ant-Man at his best. They don't have no answer for that. Those two players.
Let's make our series picks for that then.
But Minnesota doesn't have an answer for Randall when he's at his worst.
Malik, I get that. If they don't get
great Randall, but if they don't. What I'm saying is, if they don't get great,
this is the healthiest Randall has been in the playoffs, and he's looking amazing.
Yeah, Randall at his best, there is no answer on that on that OKC team for him.
I agree.
And Ant-Man both. But you can't say the same. The only one they have like that is Shea. That's it. That is all they have.
But that's what I'm saying. This what I mean. You're not hearing what I'm saying. It's not about what OKC can do to Minnesota. It's about what Minnesota does to themselves.
That's every team, though, man. That's every team.
No, it's not. It's not always every team because OKC doesn't do that.
OKC did it against Denver. They almost lost to the Nuggets because
OKC doesn't beat themselves. The Nuggets almost beat them because Jokic is an impossible cover, and if they get anything from Jamal Murray, they have a two-headed monster that can absolutely hurt. I think Denver wins that series if not for Porter and
I was about to say Porter's shoulder.
Porter's hurt. They depended on Russ too much. Like there's a lot of reasons
Russ
why
can't
Denver
shoot.
lost, but I thought Denver
and then
was
Gordon was gimpy for Game 7.
Gordon's hurt. Gordon was the other one that I said. But OKC against Minnesota is too volatile for me to pick them in any situation like against a team.
Minnesota is not as fundamentally sound and consistent. We both agree on that. But I mean, to discount the fact that if Minnesota gets that together and can give their best, OKC can't answer them. They got a bunch of good players consistently. They play well coached, but talent-wise, basketball talent-wise, Minnesota has them beat.
I don't trust Minnesota at all.
I mean, I get you. I don't trust against OKC. I think OKC wins it, but I'm just saying at max optimal performance, which is not a guarantee, but that's what I'm saying. Let's take both teams at their max optimal performance. Minnesota is better. Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
You really believe that? Because they got 68 wins in the season to prove otherwise. OKC.
I mean, and then Cleveland had how many?
Yeah, but the difference is Cleveland's not in the conference finals.
But that's what I'm saying. But just because they got beat. They got beat. Everybody gets beat. We're talking about teams at their best, maximal, optimum performance. That's what we got to factor. We can't factor in like the what ifs because I mean that is basketball. It is what it is. We're saying we take every team at their absolute best. Who is the best team in the league? I'd have to say every team at their absolute best. I still say Boston is at the top of that.
Last thing before we finish up, how do y'all feel about the tush push not being banned for the next season?
I'm glad they didn't ban it. I want somebody to stop it, especially from Philly. Well, I don't want the league to stop it. A team needs to stop it. Then they can ban it.
And Malik, your team voted to keep it legal.
Yeah, I mean, I think the majority of what was the final vote? I can't remember what
they missed it by 2 teams.
They got 22. Yeah, they got 22 votes. So it's 24.
I think it's the ugliest play in sports, in all sports. I think it's the one ugliest play in all sports. I hate watching it. You know it's coming. I'm kind of like Levon. I want somebody to stop it so that Philadelphia can't do it or whoever people keep trying and they can't do it. I mean, it's a QB sneak, right? It's been the QB sneaks.
It's the extra push from behind that really people are complaining about.
Right, but it's the push from behind, and to me, the only thing I would say is then let's make it legal defensively, because here's the thing. They take it out. That's the only reason that I said take it out of the league, because they made it so that the defense can't do that. You can't push your defensive tackle, like the middle linebacker can't get behind a defensive tackle and push him forward in the same way that the running back can do that for the quarterback on the other side. So if the tush push works on one end, it should work on both.
Good point. I didn't know that.
Take it out. They didn't put that back in for the defense. That was the argument,
for safety reasons.
Yeah, that was the argument that was made when they took it out for defense. They don't allow the defense to do it, so why are you letting the offense do it?
That's a good point. And Detroit retracted their rule, which I thought was foolish.
It got It got
No, they took it out. They didn't vote on it.
They voted against it back in the first meetings.
I'm not sure about that. I just know at this meeting, Detroit decided to take it off the table. The whole ban the divisions thing and make the NFL one big mosh pit. It took it out.
Reseeding in the second round.
They must have made the league one big mosh pit of teams.
It was
the NFL, no divisions.
It was the number one seeds in both conferences remain the number one seeds, get home field advantage, and the other 6 seeds in the conference would be seeded by record.
Yeah, that whole thing.
In the same way they do it in the NBA, and the same way they do it in basketball.
Yeah, in the NBA, divisions don't really matter.
They truly don't. We don't even care who wins the division.
They used to matter.
We used to, but we don't exactly. Ace, thank you for making my point. We don't even care.
They matter in the sense that they guarantee playoff position.
We don't even care who wins it. What division are the Knicks in? Is it still called the Atlantic?
Yes, it's still called
the Atlantic.
It is. It's still the same 5 teams.
Got it.
Yeah. Well, no, isn't Toronto in there?
Yeah. Same 5 teams. Yes. Toronto, the Knicks, Brooklyn, Boston, and
Philly.
And Philly, yeah.
Oh man, got to keep divisions in football, man. Got to keep it.
And what do you got to say about the tush push?
As far as for the tush push, I just want to quote this per ESPN. At the end of his long-hour speech, Eagles owner Jeff Lurie told the room that the fact his team created a play that's so unstoppable that the league had to try to ban it is like a wet dream for a teenage boy. I'm going to stop him from right there.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
He's basically just celebrating like crazy. But as far as for me,
because of him.
See, that's why somebody needs to beat the Eagles to just shut them up.
Because of his bullshit.
Yeah, he didn't do shit. He didn't quite,
They just need to beat the Eagles and shut them up.
He wants to talk trash because,
that thing works because they got one of the best offensive lines of football. The fact that the running back is pushing Jalen Hurts is nothing to do with it. That line is that good. That's why.
Offensive line, Jalen Hurts got strong legs.
It's not even that. The quarterback, like Malik said, is predicated on the offensive line and the quarterback picking a spot. That is it. And the Eagles have one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in football. If that offensive line is trash, the tush push will be irrelevant.
I would just like to point out the teams that kind of voted for this mostly is teams that actually had good offensive lines. To keep it in there.
I promise you, Jared Goff will not be doing a goddamn tush push.
Tush push.
There is no way Dan Campbell is allowing David Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs to try to push Jared Goff over the fucking line.
The OTAs start already?
You never know. They might. Yeah, OTAs did start because I know the Jets had a second OTA game today.
Super quiet. I saw one video. LT went to talk to the defense, but I haven't seen anything else.
As far as for the Lions, I wouldn't be surprised that your offensive coordinator comes up with a wildcat version of the tush push thing.
Push push.
But they push the running back instead as usual, but maybe have Samuel Laporta push him.
Oh man, Giants got the toughest schedule all of football. That is crazy work.
What? Look at that.
Yeah, man.
According to who?
According to the entire league. We have the toughest strength of schedule in the entire league. Where have you guys been? Under like a rock?
You are playing the Bears, so I get it.
We play the Chiefs. We play the AFC West. We play the Lions. We play the Niners. We play everybody in our division.
Okay, so y'all are first and we're third.
The Niners had a losing record last year.
Malik, that's what I just said.
Yeah, it's Giants, Bears, Lions.
That's what I just said.
But it's funny because it's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The top 8 teams are either in the NFC East or the NFC North, and those two divisions play each other.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's why it is.
But it can also go out the window anyway. It depends on how these teams are playing.
And this is absolutely right. I'm just talking about based off last year, though.
Yeah, but it's because the Giants. See, it's that's what I'm saying.
But why would you count San Francisco then as being a good team?
Because they always are. Last year was a fluke.
But Ace, you got to remember the only reason why it's the Giants is because the Giants have to play the Eagles, right?
Twice,
right? So the Eagles, they factor it in, right? The Giants have to play the Eagles, who went 13-4, but in the reverse, because the Giants went 3-14, playing the Giants lowers you down.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, by virtue of the Giants being the two teams that finished in last place in their respective divisions, the Giants and the Bears are the two teams that have the highest opponent win percentage, because they have to play those teams above them, and those teams above them finish with better records than them. So that's where it comes from. It's not to say that,
but those teams are in their division, so they were going to have to play them regardless.
Exactly, but I'm saying that's how the numbers play.
Yeah,
out,
that's
right?
how it planned out that we play San Francisco, because San Francisco ended up last in their division, didn't they? Something like that.
Yeah.
But they never do, and it's like that was just a bad year. Everybody knows San Francisco is not the worst team in their division. They just had a bad year. It was injuries and it was all of that.
Maybe you believe more in Brock Purdy than I do. And Christian McCaffrey still ain't healthy.
Brock Purdy, I mean, that's the league now. They pay quarterbacks no matter what. So they pay him no matter what. I don't know if Brock is worth that money. He's good. But, I mean, he saved – I forgot who said it. Somebody said Brock got paid, or it was – I don't even like this guy. Can't even think of his name. But he said Brock Purdy got paid because he saved everybody's job because they bet on Trey Lance and that flopped, but they got Brock Purdy in the same draft. If it wasn't for him,
he saved John Lynch's career.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Brock Purdy, they'd all be looking for work right now. Yeah. So, yeah, they paid him to say thank you. But it's going to be one heck of a year. I don't know what's going to happen. The Giants look better, but that schedule. I mean, the way it works out, like how we play, we start with Washington. Then we go to Dallas. No, we go to Washington. We go to Dallas. Then we come home and play Kansas City. Those are our first 3 games. It's wicked, bro. It's wicked hard. Pause.
I'm surprised that y'all guys didn't see any OTA stuff from your team.
I didn't see anything on my feed. I didn't. I just saw they were having a meeting and Lawrence Taylor was talking to the defense, but I didn't see anything on the field or any interviews, anything like that.
I mean, it's not really nothing. They're just basically in a helmet and throwing around in shorts right now. They ain't doing anything special.
Organized team activity.
Not everybody's there. Detroit Detroit elected to not hold. They're not even holding OTAs this year. Because they are playing on the Hall of Fame game, so they actually have to. So they come back earlier than everybody else. So they gave their veterans the OTAs off. So the biggest news coming out of Detroit OTAs is that Aiden Hutchinson is 100% cleared for
contact
all football activities. Yeah,
that's good. That's good. Should be an interesting year. Why didn't we ask the question? This is big news, unless y'all talked about it already. Caleb Williams did not want to play in Chicago, and it is documented. Like, what kind of distraction does that provide? What happens if he stinks it up this year? Do they boo? Do they boo him?
But that was back when they had the other coaches. I wouldn't want to play there either. Now they got a real coach.
I don't know. You go on record. It's in a book. You go on record.
Turns out he was right because the father thinks that the Bears don't have good offensive coaching.
Yeah.
Guess what? They didn't. Caleb said nobody was having to watch film. Nobody was breaking anything down with him.
I know. We had to do it all themselves. It turns out
Shane Waldron is a terrible offensive coach, and nobody trusted him. So that's why they went the way that they did. And the man still threw for 3,500 yards and 6 interceptions and 20 touchdowns.
So he didn't want to play for Shane Waldron. It's not that he didn't want to go to Chicago.
That's what the dad said. They specifically cited Shane Waldron and the fact that Chicago Bears have terrible offensive coach.
I mean,
you know what? As a Bears fan, let's keep it a buck. It's true. They do.
Now
they do have terrible offensive coach. No. When was the last offensive coordinator that you were like, you know what? The Bears got a great
I'm just saying, if any of us would have said that to you
never
5 months ago, you would have been defending.
I would have been like, I get that he wouldn't want to go there. Listen, they were trying to change the whole system. And what did I say? You know what I said before we started recording? I said, yeah. And the Bears told him, you can do whatever you want to do. We're drafting you. You're going to be here in Chicago. So be happy with it. Enjoy this $50 million.
That is brutal.
We'll see you in Illinois.
Yeah, lucky he didn't say, you know what, I'll go back to school.
He's going to learn to love it.
The fact that that's true, in my opinion, is a little bit of a bitch move. Okay? I'm sorry.
By who?
By Caleb.
Yeah, man.
The fact that
really?
It's a little bit of a bitch move.
You don't like the fact that he wanted to pick where he wanted to go?
Absolutely not. I believe that
player empowerment for you, huh?
No, if you believe that you're the best player, then send me wherever, and I'm gonna make the shit work.
Well, that's a good point.
got you. Super confidence. Well,
that's a good point.
If you believe, hey, wherever I go is going to be because I'm going there. You see what I'm saying? Like, because I'm going there,
I hear you.
I'm going to make it better.
I mean, that's not a bad point. Malik, that's not terribly realistic.
He's the best quarterback we've ever had.
That's kind of like saying if you were looking for a job and it's like you have a chance to go work for I don't know, Apple
Ant
or DOS or some shit. Like, I'll go anywhere because no matter where I go, this company won't flop. They won't flame out and I'll have to sell it.
DOS?
I'll make it successful. I couldn't
Have
think
you
of
not heard of Microsoft?
Well,
I could not think of a bad IT or technology company off the top of my head. But it's like saying I'm going to go work for this business that is weak and has terrible infrastructure, but I'm going to make it good rather than going to this powerhouse and making as much money and being as successful as possible.
There was no powerhouse for him to go to then. But the difference is,
he could have pulled the Elway or Manning and said, "Yeah, I'm not going to play for this team. Trade me."
Yeah, and he wanted to go to Minnesota. He wanted to go to Minnesota instead.
They would have had no choice. He could have did that.
Minnesota.
He said he didn't want to burn the city down, but he could have. He could have.
No, he absolutely he could have made
he would have been a villain. Him and his dad would have. Well, his dad would have been
about
a villain. His dad would have been a villain. If he'd have came out and said publicly what he put in the book and said the coach is trash, the offensive coordinator is trash, and I don't want my son to go there and his career will be down the toilet, then they would have had to, because the fans would have been like booing him, and it would have been too much of a volatile situation. They couldn't have been forced to draft him. How do you do that? I mean,
he could have made something happen. Something about it. The only thing I'll say about the difference with that analogy with the work situation is it's more of a in the Caleb Williams situation, he doesn't have a choice as to where he goes. Right, number one.
That's a myth. You have a choice. The choice comes with sacrifice, like Manning and Elway did. You have to sacrifice.
Number two,
what was the sacrifice that Manning made?
His father was villainized, and he was villainized early in his career for it. People saw him a certain kind of way. They thought he was privileged. They said, what right does he have to – everything Malik just said. Elway went through it too. Everybody was like, what right does he have to do this? And he's trying to choose and buck the system. But, yeah, anybody who says, publicly, I'm not going here, this is why I don't want to, you can't force him. That doesn't work. He's going to go and then play quarterback for a team that he knows publicly, publicly he doesn't want to play for. Fans can't root for somebody like that. And the sport is based on fans. It's based on fan approval. You want to win? You want to win. You don't want fans booing your quarterback. So, yeah, they would have been forced to trade him, but he would have had to torch the city, and his father would have been a villain. And he said he didn't want to do that. Did y'all cut me off? My phone down?
No, you're here.
You're just cooking, so we just let you go.
Oh no! I mean, that's just real. A lot of people aren't built for that. They don't want to take criticism and be made a bad guy. Everybody wants to fly under the radar. But yeah, if you come out and just say Chicago's trash, it's trash city, the coach is garbage, that organization doesn't know what they're doing. How did they draft you? How did they then draft you and they say, "Hey, lead us where?" I mean, what are you doing? And you can't do it. Then they force. But of course, they call his bluff and they say we draft you regardless, and he bluffed and they took him. But Manning and Elway didn't bluff.
Well, Manning didn't say shit. Eli didn't say shit.
That's true.
Eli didn't speak.
Yeah, Eli kept quiet. He let his dad.
I don't even know how Eli sounds for year 3.
But I mean, it worked out. The Bears look like they're going in the right direction. It's not that's a great city. It's a big city. It's got rich history. They just had to get rid of that coach and that coordinator, and they did it a year late, but they did it. So,
Can't wait to see what Ben Johnson does.
That's fair. Ben Johnson's going to turn it around. He's going to be the first Bears quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards. And we're going to make the playoffs, and then we're going to lose in the first round.
It's been long enough. I like to see the Bears get good again. It's been long.
I'll agree with the first statement. No, I'm not rolling with the second. I don't think they're making the playoffs.
It's been long enough. I like to see the Bears get good again. I would.
We're going to be in the playoffs, and maybe we'll beat Washington in the wild card.
I know I haven't been on with you guys in a while because I'm so tired and my life is. Aaron saw me on the Segway, so he knows what my life is. It's full of stress. We got to talk about the draft. We got to talk about the draft lottery and the absolute debacle and just, what's the word I'm looking for? Farce that it is.
Yeah, why didn't
the farce get the first of the draft lottery. Did y'all discuss this already? I think I got cut off again.
No, you didn't.
No, you're here.
He's himself. It is no way this keeps happening. LeBron leaves Cleveland. Kyrie Irving. Welcome to the first pick of the draft. And that bum Anthony Bennett, but nobody remembers him, right? What's this dude who leaves the Pelicans? Dude who's always hurt.
Edwards?
AD.
AD lose the Pelicans. Here you go. Here's Williamson. When is somebody going to stand up and say, this is trash? No one is stupid. Just let the worst team get the first pick. You know,
I'd like to point out two things. Hold on. Both of those teams you just named had terrible records. They were in the bottom three.
They weren't the worst team.
But
they were.
Cleveland,
you're right. They weren't the absolute
LeBron
worst team.
The worst team. Cleveland,
but you know who also was really bad? New Orleans was really bad.
They were bad.
New Orleans had a 30%. New Orleans had a 20% chance, and they won.
They were not the worst teams record-wise those years. They were really bad, but they were not the worst teams record-wise those years. They were not. I remember that LeBron draft where they mystically got the freaking Kyrie Irving draft pick, and then right after that they got Bennett again because LeBron James decided to leave. Listen, man, that is a farce. The lottery needs to go away. It is not. What? How long?
I think you're misremembering. Cleveland the year after LeBron left won 19 games.
What was the year they drafted Kyrie?
That was the year they drafted Kyrie.
Did they have the worst record in the league?
Yes.
Let me look that up. No, they did not, Malik.
Looking at it right now.
You are not. They did not have the worst record in the league. I know they did.
Look, they had 19 wins. They finished 19-63.
Where is? I gotta Google it.
I'm looking at it right now.
Well, maybe it was the Bennett year. Hold on, Cleveland.
I'll pull up the standings.
Cavaliers. Damn it, Cabo. But not only that, Cavaliers. Because I remember that I was like, "Oh, LeBron leaves, and here they get Kyrie, and then they got the Bennett guy right after."
What was the record New Orleans had? Because New Orleans was like 2 games ahead of New York. I think New York had the worst record that year.
Sorry,
but New Orleans was 2 or 3 games behind.
I'm sorry, Levon. They had the second worst record. Minnesota had 17 wins. Cleveland had 19 wins. They were the second worst team in basketball.
Doesn't matter. Does not matter.
They got it.
It kind of does though, because you're making it seem like they jumped another team.
But my point is this, guys. My point, and I was about to make my point. How long have the Washington Bullets been bad? When was the last time the Washington Bullets mattered?
Since before we were born.
Correct.
Legitimately.
The Washington Bullets
when John Wall was healthy, so 2013.
In years.
2013
years were good.
What?
When Gilbert Arenas was on the team.
I'm about to say the Bradley Beal, John Wall years, the Gilbert Arenas years.
The Washington Bullets have not been relevant. When I say relevant, I mean perennial playoff contender, not just 1 year, not just 2 years, but going to the playoffs consistently in the mix, making a conference final. The Bullets.
You could say the same thing about the Knicks until recently. Like
the Bullets.
Like you could say the same thing about the Knicks until recently.
In our lifetime, the Knicks have made it to the conference finals a handful of times since we've been alive. How many times did the Bullets made it to a conference final, Malik?
And wait, no, they haven't. And
exactly.
But Levon, the Wizards had the number 2 pick last year. They had the second pick.
Okay. They need to keep getting that. They need to get that.
But they keep getting it. And it doesn't matter.
We do not need a system. Malik, we do not need a system where randomly teams that don't deserve to have the number. The Dallas Mavericks are a playoff team with an all-world point guard and an all-world power forward on their team. They should not be getting the first pick in the draft. That is a farce. That is
this has only happened 3 times, and they flattened out the odds to discourage people from tanking.
Yes.
And maybe this will discourage teams like Utah from destroying their team and sending off 2 all-stars.
Utah hasn't been good since Karl Malone and John Stockton left.
No,
they haven't. I remember when Donovan Mitchell was on that team. They never got past the semis with Donovan. They were good
5-6 years straight.
Yeah, but they never got past the semis with Donovan, and he's gone. And those years with Kirilenko, AK-47, that team has been bad. My thing is this: the whole thing about tanking is this. It's a flashy word. It's a hot button topic. But look, a team is bad. Does it matter if they're losing on purpose? They're bad. Yes. No, they're bad.
Yes,
you're bad if you're bad. You can be.
You
want them to lose hard? Is that
Levon?
Hard.
It matters. No, it matters when teams lose on purpose when you have when you have 6,000 fans in attendance in the game because the team is coming there to lose.
Malik.
Like, it matters. It matters to a league, right? It matters to a league that can't get contracts to get TV contracts to get signed, like local contracts that they're selling to these teams. Like, it matters to them. They need the games to matter.
Who's the worst? Utah. Utah's trash. So you telling me if Utah played their absolute hardest, they're gonna fill the stadium? You gonna go to a Jazz game? You live in Utah. You gonna go to a Jazz game because they play?
Yes.
No, you're not.
Stop
it. No, you're not.
Yes,
you're not. It doesn't matter if the team is bad. Right. They're just bad.
No, because if they play their hardest and they're just still bad, you still have the possibility. Look, I'm not disagreeing with you that a team like Dallas should never have the opportunity to get the number one pick. But I don't agree with you that you should just arbitrarily give it to the team that has the worst record.
They do believe a lottery, and it works.
I do believe, and it's the only sport where they still do it.
And it works.
Every other sport has a lottery. Every single other sport has a lottery. System.
Works.
And I don't believe it works in the NFL either. I personally don't believe it works in the NFL. I think the NFL should go to a lottery system. But I think they should go to a lottery system for where the worst four teams, the way the NHL does it. It's, in my opinion, and the team can't move up more
than 4 spots.
They can't move up more than a certain number of spots. So it guarantees that one of those 4 teams is going to get one of those first 4 picks, and that's it. You just make it so that the Dallas shit should never happen. It should never.
Who is the worst team in football this year?
Tennessee. Well, that was a perfect example. There were 3 teams.
Well, no, you won already. What's the worst roster in football this year? I just want to answer this question.
You said the worst team? You said the worst record or the worst team?
No, worst roster in football this year. Or if your opinion of gathering information, evidence, you watch football, the worst NFL roster in the league this year.
The New York Football
Giants.
Worst
NFL roster, the Tennessee Titans and the New York Giants.
And they both had the 1 and 3 picks in the draft. And the team in between them, who the fuck was in between? Was Cleveland, who is
the Giant? Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, we had 3.
Who had the same?
Now in watching the Giant games this year, as many as you watched, do you think it would have mattered if the Giants played hard every game or toned it back? Would they still have? Wait, let me finish my question. Can I finish my question?
Go ahead.
Can I finish it?
This is sounding like a.
Go ahead. No, I thought you were finishing your question. Go ahead.
Now,
I thought you did finish your question. Go ahead. Finish your question.
Gathering all the information, you already said Tennessee and the Giants have the worst rosters in the league. That is a roster. That is a body. It doesn't change. It doesn't fluctuate. Do you think that roster would change whether those bodies played hard against Kansas City, Philly, Washington, or not so much? Does it change the roster? Does it make Brom or Daniel Jones or Tommy DeVito any better or worse? Does the need for a quarterback or a defensive end change because the Giants decided to go hard in week 5 or 6?
No, but that's not what I'm saying.
So why?
That's not what I'm saying.
So wait. I'm almost done. One last quick sentence. So why does it matter when it comes to the word tanking? The roster is what it is. That team is bad, whether they played hard or not. They're still bad, and they still need players. And the roster reflects the freaking schedule at the end of the day. Because I don't care how good or how hard Tennessee plays, they're still going to get washed by Philly when they go up against them, like they should. They're still going to get washed, and they're still going to have that bad record. Okay, I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done.
And do you want to say something before I speak? Go ahead.
No. You go ahead.
Okay. That's not what I was saying. What I'm saying is when you talk about tanking, is to Ace's point earlier, I don't know if it was on this call or it was on the previous call. When you talk about tanking, when you talk about trading away viable players that are actually good on your team, trading away those players and putting players that are conceivably worse than those guys and putting those guys on the floor, you're purposely putting a bad product on the field. I don't believe that's what the Giants were doing. I don't believe that's what Tennessee was doing. I believe they were putting their best foot forward. They're putting their best players out there in the field. I'm not saying the Giants had good players. Every NFL team has good players. What I'm saying about the bringing the lottery to the NFL is if there's a lottery in the NFL, then the Giants, the Browns, and the Titans all finished with the same record, would have all had the same opportunity to get the number one pick. They wouldn't have slotted them 1, 2, 3. They would have done a lottery to see which one of these 3 worst teams in the NFL with the worst record in the NFL is going to land that number one pick. It wouldn't just be done by mathematicians or analytics just looking at it and saying, oh, well, Tennessee had a worse strength of schedule, so they had a worse division record, and so they get it because they all finished 3-14. So that's why I'm saying, that's why I said, to me, put a lottery in that takes into account the 3 to 4 worst teams. They get the opportunity. There's a lottery to see which one of those teams gets the number one pick, and then everybody else slots in behind that.
I don't like it because you can't quantify it. The lottery is too random. I mean,
how do you quantify when you all have the same terrible record? How do you quantify when 3 teams are 3-14?
They go by
exactly. How can you say whether the Titans, Giants, and the Titans, Giants, and Browns all finished with the same 3-14 record?
Hold on.
How can you quantify?
There's tiebreakers. Right. You got to look up the tiebreakers. And what'd you say?
Exactly.
No, that's what I was basically saying. The tiebreakers, they go by the conferences.
It's just like if you have a team that's tied for first place in the division. There's tiebreakers.
And that's why I say, and the tiebreakers don't mean shit because they're not based on apples to apples. It's not an apples to apples comparison. Just because if the Titans have you could probably look it up. What is the first tiebreaker? If it's division record, for instance, right? And they say, okay, well,
schedule.
Yeah, strength of schedule is usually the first.
I think it's strength of schedule.
Strength of schedule.
Yeah, it is a strength of schedule. Because I remember they always say that they always bring up the strength schedule part.
So you finished 3-14 and you had a lower strength of schedule than everybody than the other team.
Like,
but you didn't play. But you didn't play the same schedule.
Right, like say this year the Giants finished according the Giants and Jets both finished horrible, but the Jets actually have an easier schedule. The Giants are going to get that first pick over the Jets.
No, the Jets would get the first pick.
No,
guys,
the Giants have a harder schedule.
We moving into some. My whole thing is
right. But what I'm saying is you can't compare. You can strength of schedule just takes into account Team A's opponents and Team B's opponents, but Team A and Team B don't play the same schedule. They don't play against the same opponents. So strength of schedule to me it's not a reflection of who's worse, which team actually is worse than the other. You can't look at the strength of schedule. I can't look at the strength of schedule and say. What I'm saying is, Levon, in any sport, I'm saying in any sport, honestly.
No, it's not the same because in other sports, all the teams play each other at least once. You can't do that in football.
Well,
can't do that.
But again, that's why I'm saying. In football, that's what I'm saying. I don't agree with the notion.
Well, they got to use some type of tiebreaker. I mean, you can't hold that against them. You're not going to play every team. But at the same time,
they do a lottery like everybody else does.
But the lottery, that's my thing. The lottery is chance. In football,
yeah, it's random.
Yes,
and also,
but it's random for the worst teams.
But this is the thing, man.
Levon, you wanted to say what the Pelicans' record was. They were 33-49. They had the 7th best odds that year of getting the first overall pick, which means they jumped ahead of the Knicks and they jumped ahead of other teams. And considering how Zion has played out in the NBA,
but that's
no guarantee. He hasn't been. That's true. But what I'm saying is that the first overall pick doesn't always change your team, nor does the second overall pick.
I'm not even factoring that in, fellas.
Halliburton was drafted 12th.
Guys, it's about what you earned. I think the team with the worst record has earned the right to pick the best young talent coming out that year. Period. They have the worst roster. Their record reflects how bad their team is. It should not be a lottery. The lottery is designed to.
Then it would have went to Philadelphia.
I think tanking is just a myth. It's one of these things in society where we're like, oh, this is bad just because. Why is it bad? It's like saying, fans should never root for their team to lose. But what do you root for when your team has no chance of the ultimate prize, which is what teams play for? You're not in the playoff race. You're not going to win the playoffs. What really a fan invested in that? When that is gone, what should they root for? They need to root for the draft.
Fans actually root
because
for
Levon, because Levon, you're not
Malik, don't.
Wait, what?
Because I know what you're about to
say. What do you think I'm going to say?
I just know where you're going to go. No, I'm not going to do that.
What do you think I'm going to say?
If you're going to go with the whole thing, it's bad for the sport and you got to go in trying to win and you should never root for losses. That is the spirit of it. That is all nice to say, but that's not real.
No, that's not what I was going to say.
Okay.
Levon, here's what I'm going to say. Okay.
All right.
You're a fan of the New York Knicks. Okay. You pay $10,000 a year for your season tickets. You pay for those season tickets. The season starts in October. You pay for those season tickets in March, April. Okay, so you have next season's tickets in March and April, right? The Knicks come out in November. They start poorly. They trade Jalen Brunson. They trade Karl Anthony Towns, and they trade OG Anunoby. And they start. And now the starting lineup becomes Deuce McBride and Precious Achiuwa and and Huck Forty, right? That's your squad, right? That's the best players on your team. And they roll those guys out there for 60 games, for 41 games that you have paid for. You can't get your money back. They're actively making decisions about the team, about what they're going to do, and they're telling you as a fan, thank you for your $10,000. Thank you for your money that you've invested into this. Yeah. We are actively working against what because you're there to watch your team win. You're there to watch your team win,
of course.
And so that's what.
No, wait.
Does
wait? I'm not. That's not. Of course, I'm always in it to watch my team succeed.
Exactly.
Succeed and win are not always the same thing. Right. I'm in it to watch my team succeed.
Exactly. So when you can see the seeds of your team actively doing Let me say this real quick. Succeed.
And this is to Ant, because me and Ant can relate to this. And you too, Malik. Ant, Giant, Jets, and the Lions before recent history. When the season is half done and we're out of it, the team succeeding goes from us making the playoffs to what?
Us looking at the playoff, the draft.
Thank you, Anthony. Continue, Malik.
No.
Continue.
No, that's not.
Continue, Malik. That's straight from two fans.
But this is the reason why the Dallas Mavericks organization lost almost $200 million in revenue.
Not true.
Yes, they did.
No.
They lost almost $200 million in season ticket revenue by virtue of when they traded Luka Doncic.
Those aren't real fans. Real fans are not fans of a player. They're fans of a team. I was going to say that, but I'm going to say it now. So wait till you're done.
When they're actively watching their team make moves that is counterproductive to the success of the team,
they get upset.
Okay. That is a reason. And again, you can't get your money back.
Yeah, Malik's talking about the emotional thing of the fans going to feel.
Look,
you get ready to go to an Usher concert and they tell you Usher's not performing.
Apples and oranges.
You spend apples and oranges. But you getting ready to go. You getting ready to go. You're what I'm saying is that they're actively doing things to that goes against the success of the team.
No.
And they're telling you as the fan, just keep coming to the games.
Okay.
Just keep supporting the team.
May I?
Just keep paying your money.
May I?
And we'll make it better later.
Okay. That
doesn't work.
May I? Okay. First of all, any true fan is not a fan of a player. He's a fan of a team. Hence, Juan Soto left the Yankees, correct? Players leave teams all the time. You root for your team. You don't root for players. Any Mavericks fan, any Cleveland fan when LeBron left, any fan, KD left, any fan that wants to condemn a team when Odell Beckham Jr. I can name many players that have left my teams. Never once did I turn on my team for it because I'm a fan of that team. So any true fan, season ticket holder or not, you go to the games. You watch because you want to see your team succeed. You want to see your team, whatever moves they make. If they go to and I buy season tickets to the Knicks and the Knicks decide to trade everybody in Jalen Brunson, I'm going to be like, why are we doing this? I'm going to ask questions. I'm not going to stop watching. I'm not going to stop going. And if I do stop going, I sell my tickets. I'm not going to stop following my team because I'm a fan of my team. Luka was traded away from Dallas because he plays no defense. And now LA is starting to see that. And now LA is sitting at home because they're starting to see Luka plays no defense. They got AD. They decide defense wins championships. To be continued. We don't know what's going to happen with that. But Dallas, if Kyrie turns out to be healthy and can play, if he didn't get hurt, if AD healthy and didn't get hurt, and they were still in the playoffs, the fucking seats would be full. Because the Maverick fans are fans of the team.
They weren't full when they were healthy.
They're sitting at home.
Full when they were healthy.
AD got hurt the first game he played.
People legitimately had a funeral for Luka after they traded this.
That's
like,
because
people showed up
their fans,
and had an outpouring of support, and they were like,
player.
"What are you doing?"
He was a good player for the team. They were fans of the player.
You traded a 25-year-old star. It's like the Yankees had Juan Soto under contract for a decade and said, "We're going to trade him."
You're talking about fans of players. Malik, that's a great point. That's a great point. But players get traded. Players leave as free agents all the time. Teams go up and down. But yeah, I mean, you have season tickets. We still watch. Fans bitching and moan. They burn jerseys, but they still watch, and they always come back when the team is doing well. Original point, if a team is tanking because the roster is bad, that is not what should deter them from getting the chance to draft the best possible player that is coming in. It should not. Tanking does not change the fact that your roster is bad.
That's not what I'm saying. Yeah, Levon, that's never been what I said.
Let me finish.
What I said is,
good team. Malik, the Knicks are not trading Brunson. The Knicks are not trading Cat. They're not going to do that so they can be first in the draft. There's no good team that takes good players and decides to offload them randomly so they can be bad. That does
Utah did that. Utah did that. Utah had a playoff team. Utah had a 60-win team. Hold on. Can I finish? Utah had a 60-win team. And they said, we don't want this 60-win team. We don't think it's going to work.
Correct.
And they said, we're going to trade away. We're going to trade away 2 players and the rest of the guys who won 62 games 2 years back to back.
Yeah.
And our coach is going to quit on us. And now Quinn Snyder is coaching Atlanta, and Utah stinks.
You can be a 60-win mediocre team. You can be a 60-win mediocre team that knows it can't get past, like the Mavericks, that knows it's not going to be able to win as currently constructed. You look around.
They were in the finals last year.
You can see if you are doing your job and you're a GM of a professional team and your job is to look beyond the present and say, as currently constructed, can we successfully beat the teams that are 1 in our tier right now and 2 coming up behind us? And he was like, with Luka trying to guard somebody? Absolutely not. And he made a deal. For the
Mavs
future,
need to hire you as a spokesperson because Nico needs you to deflect all this blame.
But I mean, it's just the truth. And the proof is in the pudding. Did they not just get beat by Minnesota? Was it not even close?
But there's no, again, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying that it should not guarantee you anything. It should guarantee you a spot. It should guarantee you a chance at getting the number 1 pick. It should not guarantee you the number 1 pick simply because you decided that for the sake of getting that number 1 pick, getting Cooper Flag, you're going to win 10 games this year.
No, that's a different argument altogether. My thing is the placement.
But that's the
placement.
No, but that's the argument that we're saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that Dallas should have never gotten the number 1 pick. It should have never been the chance. It should have been 1.8% chance. It should have been 0.
Yeah, we agree.
No reason that the Dallas Mavericks should have gotten a chance at that. The number 1 pick, the chances of the number 1 pick should have been the 3 worst teams in the NBA or the 4 worst teams in the NBA. They should have been vying for the number 1 pick.
And they flattened out the odds for a reason because they want to encourage winning. They want to encourage you to spend and keep your good players.
Ace, that is ridiculous. Winning is implied. When the season starts and everybody's 0-0, everybody wants to win when you start.
Yeah, but can I explain this? You heard what I just said with what the Jazz did. If any team should be upset, if any team should genuinely be upset, it should be the Wizards.
So let me ask you a question. Let me finish
what I'm saying. The Wizards, to no fault of their own, John Wall got hurt. And then their best player wanted out, so they traded Bradley Beal. And then they've just been trash. And then they've been trash organically. They've made trades from other players. They've paid guys $100 million contract. And it didn't work out. And then they lost. And you know what pick they ended up with? They ended up with the 6th overall pick. They ended up with the 6th overall pick.
It might.
It could be. But you're not advocating for them. What you're saying is the worst team, period, should get the first overall pick.
Period.
What Malik is saying is the top 4 worst teams should be in the lottery for the number 1 overall pick.
I just don't like the lottery. So I don't think the lottery should not factor into this. You should get what you earn.
1985.
Okay, so how come we can't do a lottery for playoff seeding then? Why can't the top 4 teams go into a lottery and then decide who has home field? Why can't we do that?
Because playoff seeding.
Wow.
Playoff seeding. No, but again, playoffs. The playoffs is not the playoff. There's no what's the word? What I'm going for. There's no uncertainty. There's no uncertainty in playoffs, in playoff seeding. We know who the best teams are. We know who the worst teams are. We know who the worst teams are. We know who the best teams are based on their record. So
we know who the worst teams are based on their record.
No. So again, there's because there's no uncertainty. There's no reason to shuffle things up. Because you're going to get the best teams playing in the best games. That's what I'm saying. No
so how do you not know who the worst teams are, Malik? The record shows it.
Levon, what I'm saying is you don't know what you know in the playoffs is when you're seeding for the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know who the best teams are. So the best 8 teams get in. So if the best 8 teams get into the playoffs, reseeding it. Like I said, they reseeded in every other city. They just don't.
You reseeded because of home field. That's what I just said. That's why you can lottery it up and reseed it for home field. You don't do it. No. But that's what I'm saying. They reseed it by record. But you can do, but because what you're doing in playoff seeding, you're not taking in. All you're doing is taking into account who had a better record than whom. And you're dropping them in as a seed. All I'm saying for the draft. The reason they have I don't want to cut you off. The reason you have seeded in the playoffs is because you have home court, and that matters in basketball. We're talking basketball.
No, but Levon, what I'm saying is the reason why you don't have to do it is because you're going to watch them play each other. They're going to have to play each other to identify who wins. This is why I said this is why you don't have to randomize the playoffs. It's the best 8 teams, and guess what? They're going to play in a tournament style in order to figure out who wins it. With the draft, you don't know who the worst you don't know who the worst team is. They all have the worst record, but there's no way to determine who the worst team is because they're not going to play each other to determine.
Malik,
the Washington Wizards.
Before you keep going,
these teams are not going to play.
We're not talking about that.
I'm worse than you, so I should get the pick.
I'm not talking about the head-to-head. I'm talking about the reward. The reward for record. Hold on. You're talking about result and playing each other. I'm not talking about that. And who's better? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the reward for record. The reward for the worst record should not be now you're in a lottery. Let's shuffle you up. It should be
with the other 3 teams that have the worst record.
You get worst record, first pick. No. Best record, home court.
No.
That's what I'm talking about. Reward.
Worst record.
Other stuff you just said. Reward. Home court.
Worst record.
First pick.
You get no. I don't think it. That was saying the worst 4 records.
Worst record.
Exactly.
Okay.
This is exactly how it's done. This is exactly how it's done in the NHL.
Yeah.
The worst 4 records, 1 through 4, right?
Okay.
Number 1 has, I think it's 28 or 32%.
So do that with the playoff seeding too. Reward wise, you get to play each other
because you don't need
best
to.
Best
you
4
don't need
records.
to.
We lottery it up
because you're not trying to figure out who's going to have who's the best team is there. You're going to play that.
We're not talking about that. We're just talking about record. Why do you keep saying best team? I'm talking about record.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying there's no need to.
Levon, you're arguing a ridiculous point, and you know it's ridiculous.
No, it's ridiculous
because it's literally the system is operated like this, and the teams know the rules, and they knew this going in, and they saw what the Sixers did, and they said, "Oh, if we can lose long enough, we can get good enough picks." And other teams are trying it too, as opposed to doing what Oklahoma City is doing, and we're going to roll out the best team we have, and because we're a small market, we're just going to accumulate as many first-round picks, and we're going to draft well. And most teams just draft terribly.
OKC sat there and traded away everybody and accumulated picks. But you're saying because they drafted well, it's okay for them to do it. But because
who did they trade for?
What?
Who did they trade for?
How do you think they got all those
Who did they trade for? Who did they trade for?
They traded for picks. All they did was stockpile picks over the years. They traded for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
They traded for their MVP.
That's the
MVP of the
guy
league.
They traded for.
And you know what they did? And when they were in Seattle, you know who they drafted?
This whole time.
They drafted Kevin Durant.
And
then they drafted Russell Wilson. I'm sorry, they drafted
Did they
Russell
trade KD?
Westbrook.
Did they trade
No,
KD?
they
No.
didn't trade KD.
KD left.
KD was a free agent.
And then
KD was a free agent.
And then they drafted Serge Ibaka. And then they drafted James Harden, and they were in the finals. If you draft well, that's the reward.
I am not an OKC
You're
fan.
arguing for helping
been,
teams that are bad at what they're supposed to do.
You guys,
and that's ridiculous.
You guys are not listening to my point. My point is record equals reward. I'm not talking about playing each other. Worst record, you get the first pick. Best record, you get home court. Forget playing. If you want to shuffle the first pick, so if you want to shuffle the order for the first pick so teams don't tank, I think tanking is a myth. I think it's bull. I think it doesn't matter because good teams are good teams and bad teams.
Do you think no one's doing it intentionally or it doesn't matter?
Good teams are good teams and bad teams are bad teams. Good teams do not lose on purpose.
That's ridiculous.
Not happen. It does not happen.
The
good
Spurs
teams
actually tank for
do not lose on purpose. Bad teams do because they're bad. Period. If Ann can name a good team that lost on purpose, I'm listening. A good team that lost on purpose. An absolute 60-win team that lost on purpose so they could get a number one pick. I'm listening. But bad teams do it because they know they're bad. So I'm like, why are we sitting here shuffling the bad teams up and then letting good teams somehow sneak in and get this pick? Even with the NHL.
Obviously, enough of the fans that pay to go to the games got tired of seeing that in Philly, got tired of seeing that in all these other cities and said, if you're going to do this, I'm not going to show up.
But they don't show up anyway.
And they decided against it. And they said, if you're going to try, I'll be here. But if you're going to give me this bullshit, I'm not coming. And
bad
they stopped
teams
showing
don't
up.
Have full stadium. The
and
only bad team that fills the stadium is Madison Square Garden. What bad team trying hard or not is filling the stadium? What bad team is filling the stadium? Sacramento filling the stadium?
Cowboys. Sacramento actually is, because they're
Dallas is in the hunt
bad.
Every year. That's an American team that's full. We're talking basketball. Let's not jump sports.
No, I'm talking about the Mavericks. Talking about the Mavericks.
Oh, the Mavericks. Malik just said the fans were burning jerseys, and the Mavericks were in the weren't they in the play-in? What bad team?
And they lost.
What bad basketball team? What bad basketball team? Not in the play-in. Not just went to the conference finals. What bad basketball team? We talking Bullets. We talking Hornets. Is filling the fucking stadium.
They're called the Wizards now.
Bullets, Hornets.
Utah actually does have a pretty consistent level of sellouts. Surprisingly.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you know this. There's not much to do in Salt Lake City.
A bad team is a bad team.
They ain't got nothing else to do.
If we went out there and played against a bunch of dudes and they were worse than us and they started fooling around and not trying to beat us, does that mean it would matter if they started to try hard or not? They're bad. They are bad.
Levon, I don't even get your point at this point, but it's a random situation. And sometimes when you have a random odds, random things happen.
A bad team is a bad team.
And 5 times ever in 40 years has a team that had 2% odds or less got the first overall pick. And this year it happened to happen. And when Shaq
it's unnecessary.
Orlando got the first overall pick and they had a 1.8% chance. And they got Shaquille O'Neal. And Orlando has never won a title. And you know why they've never won a title? Because they're a shitty organization. And they couldn't re-sign Shaq. And they said,
I don't like it.
We're not going to pay him.
When you put things in that are uncertain and they can't be quantified and they're not black and white, there's a chance for them to be
everything doesn't need to be quantified.
And they can be
orchestrated. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but they can be orchestrated. And they will be. Because who would stop the league? And that's the reason why.
No, again, and that's the reason why people believe it is rigged, because it's behind closed doors.
It is rigged
because there is no whatever you believe what you want to believe. It's behind closed doors. It's hidden to everybody. There are I know that it's not hidden to everybody. There are people in the room when the lottery happens, when the actual lottery happens. By the time we see it on TV, it's already happened in the back. It's already happened. Everybody already knows. The TV part is not the lottery. It's just the reveal.
we know Malik.
But what I disagree, Ace, with you on is the flattening is this aggressive flattening of the odds. I do believe, to Levon's point, I do believe that the worst teams should have the best chance at getting the number one pick.
They do, and some random happened this year.
No. But what they do is the top three, the worst three teams, all have a 14% chance, and I don't think that's right.
And it used to be 26%, 24%, and then like 18.
It should be 100%. You have the worst record.
I think that it should. That's what I'm saying. I think that you don't flatten it that way by making the worst three teams all have 14. And then again, and that's what I'm saying, by flattening it, then now you've given a team like the Dallas Mavericks, who made the play-in, who have, bona fide all-star talent all up and down their roster, on their roster, you gave them the opportunity to win that number one seed, even if it was 1.8%. You gave them the opportunity to win the number one seed. You don't give, millionaires buy lottery tickets.
1.8%.
They don't have a better chance. They don't have a better chance of winning the lottery than, the janitor at the high school. You see what I'm saying? Like, they don't. They shouldn't. That's the whole point. They shouldn't. As a matter of fact, if you're a billionaire, you shouldn't even be allowed to play the lotto because in all honesty, just you having the chance to win,
rich getting richer
is
what you're saying.
Is stupid.
1.8.
Right. So it should be.
That's crazy.
The reward for being bad. I can't say it's a reward, but
why not?
It's not a reward because you don't reward teams for sucking. You don't reward. Look, we live our entire lives saying do the best you can. Don't reward, and you don't reward bad. You don't reward bad behavior, and you don't reward bad performances. You don't get a cookie from the teacher when you get a 30 on the test. Like, you don't do that.
Malik,
can I? You don't do that.
You use words like reward. You get what you deserve, and that record. You say reward,
but you don't deserve. But you don't deserve a carte blanche opportunity to just draft the number one pick because you stink.
Yeah, that's why. That's the purpose of the number one pick. That's his whole purpose, to take a stinky team and freshen it up, make it smell better.
Or you could do something different and actually draft better.
How the
you
fuck?
Could do that too.
How can you draft better if you can never get the chance to draft the best possible prospect?
Where did Denver draft Nikola Jokic?
How the fuck?
Where did Denver draft Nikola Jokic?
Yeah, Ace, hindsight. I mean, you live in the world of hindsight. Who's the best player coming out in this draft? Let's play that game. Because you throw out all these guys. No one knew Jokic.
Everybody assumes it's Cooper. Everybody assumes
no
it's
one
Cooper
knew
Flag.
Jokic. It was every team because he got drafted in the
Did
second.
Everybody? Okay, I'll give you a better example. Draymond Green played 4 years of college basketball. You know where he got drafted?
Yeah, 34.
He got drafted in the top of the second round.
I wanted him to go to the Knicks.
Listen, man.
Draymond Green got drafted at the top of the second round.
Hindsight is great.
He's been key to his team winning. Everybody saw him.
Tell me.
Ace Bailey.
Because you want to say, you know what? You can go ahead and draft this guy.
Because he was rated very high, and he performed very well. And I've been following this.
Ace Bailey is the best player. He's going to win rookie.
Legitimately.
He's the best player coming out this year. No
one's going to be better. In my opinion, yes. He has the highest upside, yes.
All right.
He has the biggest.
I'm going to try my best to remember.
He has the ability to be as good as Tracy McGrady is what they're
I am going to try my best to remember. So there's no second round pick in this draft that's going to turn out to be a Jokic type. Nobody like that.
It's unlikely.
Correct. But just draft well. Just do it.
If you see someone playing college for 4 years and then they go in the second round, you know
it's
what that
not
means?
an exact science.
It doesn't mean Draymond. No, Draymond didn't slip because they weren't paying attention.
It's not an exact 4 years in a row. That's why you have a draft. That's why you want to draft as soon as possible and as much as possible to increase.
And the Portland Trailblazers, the Portland Trailblazers took Benoit Benjamin and let Michael Jordan get past.
It's not an exact science, but your record.
They had the number one overall pick,
and the word reward is wrong. It's deserve. It's what you deserve.
Well, then I guess Dallas got what they deserved.
No, they did not, because it was a fucking lottery.
You get what you get, and you don't get upset.
So that's basically like saying, okay, we're going to take a bunch of people, and we're going to do a lottery and see who gets what fucking house?
They had a 14% chance of getting the first overall pick.
Real dark with the shit. We're going to do a lottery and decide who's gonna get which job or who gets to live today.
They're doing it Hunger Games style, you know?
Certain things should not be
put up to chance. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
Certain things should not be put up to chance. It should be based on what you earn. And if your record says you're trash, and if your roster says you're trash, you get the first pick. We don't need to put you in a fucking spin cycle and then just pop the motherfuckers up. Because we want to.
That's just how it goes.
We want to guess and say, you didn't try hard enough and you didn't try hard enough. What? That's just ridiculous.
Sometimes you get a 5% chance of winning and you win.
That's
Nobody's saying, but Levon, what you're saying is nobody's saying that they didn't have the chance. The worst teams had the chance.
Oh my God.
They all had a percentage.
And they slid from first to fifth.
They just did.
Yeah, but it should not even be a chance. Everything else,
we just didn't want to see poor play be rewarded.
Everything else is left up to what we do on the ice, on the field, on the court. Until we get to in the NBA or NHL or baseball, until it gets to picking the next best player, then we got to.
And to your point, Houston. That's how Houston got Altuve and all those guys.
We don't do that shit any other time. When it's playoff time, top 4 teams, top 8 teams, lottery. Let's lottery it up. You had the best record. You won 16 games, but you're not going to play one game in front of your.
We're going to move on to shout-outs.
We're going to throw you in a ball, and you're going to go on the road.
It's a horrible comparison.
It's a great comparison.
It's a horrible comparison.
It's their record. Their record earned them home field.
It's a horrible
Their
comparison.
record earned them home field. Why can't we lottery it up to see if they play on the road or not?
Because then there's no point in playing the regular season.
Your record earned you the worst record in the league. Why can't you get the top pick in the draft? I don't see why it's hard.
Because the league decided otherwise.
Because the top pick in the draft is considered a reward. The top pick in the draft, getting the top pick in the draft,
supposed to improve your team so you're not as bad.
Home field is not a reward.
Getting the top pick in the draft is considered a good thing.
You know why you get home field? Because the owners want to get the concessions and the ticket sales.
That is subjective.
That's what home field is.
Malik, that is subjective again. Just good and bad.
Wait. So Levon, answer my question. Is getting the top pick in the draft considered a good thing for your team or a bad thing for your team?
It is considered a good thing for your team. If it's your team, it's considered a good thing.
Okay. So again, that's my whole point. If the top pick in the draft is considered a good thing, and in order to get that good thing, you have to be the worst possible way, be the worst version of yourself, and you get the grade at the end.
Yeah, but that's just your record.
Worst one of you,
that is just your record.
One of you gets the worst one of you gets the prize. The prize is the number one pick. It's a prize.
So Malik, how else would you do it? So what should the worst teams get for being bad? Stay bad? You should stay there?
They get the chance. They get the chance to get better in the draft.
Why do they have to have a chance? They're already bad. Why do they get a chance? I don't understand. That doesn't.
Because there's no way. Because there's no way to quantify who is the worst team. So again, what
do you mean? So what are the records? Why can't the record quantify which are the worst team? Or the roster, or your eyeballs.
Because there is no direct correlation that can be made to the record because the schedules are different. The schedules are different. The games are different.
Are we talking about football or basketball? Which one are we talking about?
Every sport.
Either one. You could be in a tougher division. You could be in the Western Conference and play tougher
basketball. They all play.
You could be in the Eastern Conference.
It doesn't matter.
But everybody's game situation is completely different.
Oh boy! But why is it different when it comes to winning? Then it's the same rules that you just stated for losing, but in winning, it's the same thing. But we don't lie
because
why do you think
that's ridiculous?
Why do you think the league agreed to this?
Because
why do you think the league agreed to it? Explain that.
I don't know. Because they're not.
You know why they agreed to it? Because it made them more money. Because it kept people more engaged.
Because they're corrupt.
It kept more people buying tickets. Because you have to have your fans believe we're actually trying to win today. Otherwise, why the hell am I going to show up and pay money to see this terrible team?
I think teams are always trying to win, but if you have a bad team,
if they're doing it, then they're doing a terrible job.
You have a bad team. If you have a bad team, you have a bad team. If you have a bad business idea, you have a bad business idea. Does that mean that you should, never be successful in life ever? If you have a bad business idea?
No, but you do go out of business. The difference is this is the NBA and you're operating in a cartel.
So you have a bad business idea and the business flops. Does that mean you should never have a chance to have another idea again or try to start another business?
You can have all the ideas you want, but I'm not funding it. Should you be penalized for it? Should you have to pay more? I just don't understand it, man. I don't understand it's weird. You don't want to reward poor play.
Construct where if your team is
bad, it felt like people were intentionally trying to lose, so we didn't want to reward that.
No one is trying to lose.
That's what you believe. Apparently, the NBA
no one is trying to lose.
And these owners got together and decided otherwise.
So
y'all just ganging up on me. You don't empathize.
I'm asking a question.
No,
I'm asking a question.
Before you ask the question, hold on.
The GM of the Sixers came out and literally said, "We're doing this on purpose."
And he starts talking. These gentlemen, hold on. These owners take their own money. to go and buy teams, to invest in a product, to make money, to be successful. These players train their whole lives to fulfill a dream. These coaches, et cetera, et cetera. This is their careers, their lives, what they choose to do. Like Ace chooses to go to fucking work, raise his child, me, same. We don't choose to fail on purpose. We do not choose to do it. But you believe that these people, because we watch them on TV and because they happen to try and lose, that for some reason they're different from us and they are actually trying to lose on purpose and risk their careers, their livelihoods, their reputations. You believe this because maybe their idea of how to succeed, not win, succeed might be, okay, we're mediocre, or okay, this level that we're at, we can't compete at the way we want to. We have to go about it a different way. So we should be penalized for trying to do that. OKC cannot go out and get Karl Anthony Towns. They cannot go and sign Kevin Durant. That's why he left. So they have to build through the draft. They have to trade. They have to be bad to get picks.
Well,
get
knowing
good.
that he was going to leave, they could have traded him.
All right, I talked a lot. I know y'all got shit to say. But I mean, just seriously. No one's trying to be bad.
I find it very, very hilarious that you believe that the league, you believe that the NBA.
An hour ago.
Oh, you did that? Go ahead.
No,
I told you to say something. No, I'm saying on the one hand, Levon believes that the league is rigged, that the league rigs the draft to ensure that teams that they want to get certain players get certain players. But on the other hand, you don't believe that teams that a team would actively pursue, make themselves put themselves in position to get enough to get a great player.
Yeah,
so
I know.
On the one hand, you believe that the league.
Yes, of course. A team.
On the one hand, you believe that the league conspires to give certain teams certain players, but the teams don't do that because the teams are believing in are investing, are all fully invested in their own success.
I think losing and winning is not so much our score is more than other teams at the end of the day. Losing and winning can be more long-term goals where let's move on from Luka because we want to win in the long run. And we know with him, our potential is capped. And are we going to be mediocre? Are we going to stay here and know that, we can't get past Minnesota next year? They're going to be better than us. OKC is going to be better than us. Luka can't defend. He got cooked by Tatum in the finals, and everybody saw it. So we're going to move on from him. Take this draft pick from L.A., flip it or whatever. I don't know if they knew they were going to get the pick. But my point is when I say lose on purpose, everybody has a plan on how to get to the top. And it doesn't necessarily mean let's go out and try to, score more points in this game every time. I'm not saying they go out there and they purposely throw games. If they do, they need to be penalized. I truly believe that. But if you decide, go ahead, Malik.
No, I'm just saying. But your logic there is that they made the trade. They traded Luka, because they believed that Luka was not the one, was not the guy, and he was not going to take them to a championship. And they needed to build another way.
Kind of like when you talk about Utah and Spike.
And they did right. But the league saw that trade and said, "Oh, they traded Luka. Oh, we need to give them the number one pick." And so we're going to make sure that they get the number one pick. So again, the Mavericks did everything above board. The Mavericks didn't do anything. The league said we're going to give them the number one pick because they made that.
No,
trade.
I'm not in the room. I don't know how that goes. I don't.
That's what you're saying. You're saying it is rigged.
I do believe it's rigged. I do believe it's rigged.
On the other hand, the teams are all above board. The teams are not doing anything to give themselves a better chance at getting that number one pick.
I'm not in the room, but
they're not actively tanking their opportunities to get that number one pick. Like the Indiana Fever didn't actively tank their season. If you watch the WNBA, the Indiana Fever didn't actively tank their season knowing that Caitlin Clark was coming out in that draft. Yes, they did. They absolutely did.
Were the Fever good? Were they better than the Aces? Or the Liberty?
No.
They were bad,
They were
bad.
But they were a playoff team.
They were bad.
They were a playoff team the year before.
I can't. I'm going to admit that I don't follow the WNBA well enough to dispute that. So I'm not going to comment. I have no idea how good or bad they were. I have no clue. But I know the Aces are the best team, and they didn't get Caitlin Clark because they're good.
What I'm
and
saying
they suck
is,
so they could get Asia Wilson.
What I'm saying is,
I don't know much about the
what I'm saying
WNBA
is,
or
teams
whose record is what. I
in
just know
every
good
sport,
teams do not lose on purpose.
In every sport, it to me. What I'm saying is, tanking is. I believe tanking is real, and I believe tanking is strategy. It is strategic.
Yeah,
it's strategic.
Teams in every sport do it.
Yeah, it's a part of sports. If you're bad, you fight to not so much fight,
race
but
to the bottom.
Yeah, you're at the bottom fighting for the bottom.
But again, and that's what I'm saying. So that's why my only thing is, if you want to race to the bottom, that's fine. But I'm not going to guarantee you that you can get Aaron Judge by racing to the bottom. That doesn't mean you get Aaron Judge, nigga.
All right, but I mean that's valid. That's valid. But your method, opens up the opportunity for someone to manipulate.
You got to be out of your mind. We're going to shout outs and
manipulate.
No, wrap it up, B. Wrap it up. Shout outs and shout outs.
I wanted to say my point as well, but whatever.
Go ahead. No, you said your point. Levon was arguing past it because he just loved to argue.
I don't love to argue.
I actually had something else to say, but whatever. Shout out to nobody.
Hey, please.
No, Ant, what do you have to say?
I asked you multiple times to say your point. You said no. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. I'm tired right now. I already forgot most of the shit. Shout out to everybody in the world. Good night.
And I'm sorry, man.
Levon,
I had no idea.
Wrap it up, B.
I've said enough. I've said more than enough. My shout outs are to this group and the pod, and it's always a great time talking with you gentlemen. Shout out to Ace and Malik.
Oh, rest in peace, Jim Irsay and what's the name? And Norm from Cheers.
Yeah, Norm.
George Wendt. Shout out to George Wendt. What's his name?
George Wendt. That's right. Dub Bears.
Oh yeah, fuck you, Whitney Johnson.
Good God. All right. Well, yeah, shout out to Caleb Williams for trying to get away from the Bears, but we got you anyway. Shout out to his dad for trying to change the whole game. And shout out for Shador for signing the contract with the Cleveland Browns. And shout out to, my Knicks for making it to the conference finals.
His
Knicks. I did not expect. Yeah, my Knicks. Nobody else claimed them in their shout out, so I'm claiming them. Shout out to my Knicks, which I used to be a season ticket holder of when we had Eddie Curry as the center. I was paying $3,500 a year on a payment plan to see that nigga run up and down the court and possibly win a game.
Like Anthony a true fan.
Yeah, like a real fan. And like remembers because he came to me to a game.
That's right.
When Stephon Marbury ran up and down the court and beat Deron Williams because Deron Williams was celebrating during the regular season and he stole a win from them. And that is still one of the highlights of me being there. And then they redid the whole stadium to make those seats more expensive. And then they priced me out. But I'm still cheering for my Knicks, and I hope they pull through. And I have faith that they're going to win the series. Knicks in 6. Okay? I don't care about Halliburton. I don't care about any Burton. George Burton, I don't care who they have on that goddamn team.
Knicks Tim Burton.
6. Knicks in 5.
Tim Burton. Yeah, any Burton. And shout out to Julius Randle, man, for hustling and coming through. Like, he's playing pretty well for the T-Wolves. They just not – he had a terrible game today, actually. But they lost, but he's out there hooping, and I respect it. And he helped New York become New York. He got us to the playoffs a couple times. All-NBA guy got paid. They kind of did him dirty, traded him at the last minute. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm not happy that we got Cat and got rid of him, but at least it worked out for him, too, and he's on a good team. He's working out.
Was he of everything? Like he started everything?
Yeah, he came there first because we got him when he came from he was our lone superstar, our lone all-star when we got him. We signed him as a free agent on that 3-year deal out of New Orleans from the Pelicans. And he got to make $100 million, and, I bet he enjoyed living in New York because he used to live in LA. So, and now he's in Minnesota. So, it ain't the same. But shout out to them. Malik, go ahead.
I just have to shout out to Ryan Clark for exposing the fraud that is RG3 and his foolish take on women's basketball, which he doesn't watch. I know
calling himself the milkman is crazy. I didn't know he did that.
Oh, he's been doing that for a long time. riding this whole, white girl love train for a long time. Look, I get it. He married a white woman. I don't care about that. I mean, that doesn't matter to me. All the athletes do it. So whatever. But him, deciding to jump on the whole train of, bashing Angel Reese because Angel Reese just doesn't like Caitlin Clark. Whether they like each other or not is regardless of the fact. I hope RG3 has the same smoke for Ryan Howard, who got into it with Angel Reese this evening in the game between Atlanta and the Fever. I hope he has the same smoke for him and for her, because that just happened. That just happened tonight. So I'm waiting to see what RG3 has to say about that one, because you watch so much WNBA basketball and you're just reacting to what happens on the court. You're not in your feelings about black girls and white girls. You're not in your feelings about that at all. No. You watch all the games, right? So let me hear what you got to say about Ryan Howard and Caitlin Clark today. You goddamn fraud. Anyway. Anyway, shout out to Ryan Clark for smoking that dude out, because I get so tired of hearing him sometimes. Shout out to the Tush Push. Shout out. Look, I know we talked about it a little bit. The last thing I wanted, and Nick Wright said this too, the last thing I wanted was for the NFL to ban something the year after Philadelphia used it to win a Super Bowl, because all you would have heard is Philadelphia people talking about, hey, they got rid of our play. And if they don't win this year, which I don't believe they will win the Super Bowl this year, they don't win the Super Bowl this year, it's all because they took away the tush push. So thank you, NFL, for keeping that in. Now, this year, when they don't win the Super Bowl, if you want to take it out next year, that's perfectly fine by me. You can do it then. And yeah, that's it. Because I haven't really paid attention to sports over the last 24 hours because I'm still in grieving over the Knicks game 1 loss. But yeah, other than that, I'm good.
Oh, and shout out to USC for being cowards, for ending their series against Notre Dame and not wanting to play them no more because they joined the Big Ten. I still don't understand that logic. You guys finally lost a couple in a row, and now you don't want to play a real schedule. So, yeah, Lincoln Riley, you made them soft. I'm out.
Peace.